A robot apocalypse? I'd like to do a video just on books about robots and robotics and the whole sort of AI thing. It'd be really cool. So I'm going to pick my books and then do that early next year. But in the meantime, I wanted to look at these two books here by C.Robert Cargill. So Sea of Rust and Day Zero. This came out a few years ago, and this came out this year. This is the prequel that came out this year. So I'll start off by talking about Sea of Rust.
Don't expect any mercy during the Great Robot Wars.
So this is one of those apocalyptic books, but it's a robot apocalypse. So humankind has been wiped out by the robots. So I think what's kind of intriguing straight away with the premise is obviously the idea of robots taking over the world is quite an old idea, but you usually have some sort of struggle in there. It's normally the bit beforehand, but this is set after it's all happened. So the only sentient beings on the earth are robots, and that's kind of explored in the book about the idea of what is sentience through the main character, which is Brittle. Brittle is a robot that is a caregiver and has to somehow escape the clutches, if you like, of the OWI, which is the One World Intelligence, which is the supercomputer that kind of creates this hive mind with all the robots around the world. And there's this sort of sense that there's a lot of pressure on the robots to be assimilated. So that's what a lot of the kind of the plot is driven around. But within that, there's lots of set pieces, lots of action scenes in it. It's a really thrilling book, and you do care about Brittle as well. And their journey through the book is really interesting, and they meet lots of people to help them along the way. And there's a really cool ending. There's lots of sort of big battles and like the pace of it, the fact that Brittle's always got on the move, always running, is really cool. And that's a big feature of the book, I think. And I just couldn't put it down. I read it so fast because it just grabs you, just pulls you in. It's quite cinematic, I think, as well. So that was really awesome. So I was really chuffed with that. And interestingly enough, because of how much I loved this, I bought another one of his, a fantasy book, which I didn't like quite as much. So that was a bit of a shame. But then he brought this out. And this is the prequel. So this came out this year. And this is the setup of the robot apocalypse.
The universe was ruled by thinking machines with human minds, computers and conscious robots.
So it's set before it happens. This is how it happens. So a little bit more of a traditional story, if you like, because the whole idea of AIs being sentient and being dangerous and that kind of thing, it's a little bit more familiar, and the way it does it in here is a little bit more familiar. But he's a good writer, does it really well. You do care about the two main characters, which is Pounce and Ezra. Ezra's an 8-year-old boy, and Pounce is the sort of tiger-shaped robot that's been entrusted to look after Ezra. So Ezra's parents bought him as a nanny, a robot nanny. And obviously as the beginning of the book unfolds and the robots start getting aggressive, it's Pounce's job to look after Ezra and make sure he's okay. So that's how it starts. And then it just gets more and more hectic for him. And there's devastation everywhere. It looks like the odds are against them. And they have lots of adventures in trying to figure out what they need to do and to get to safety and that kind of stuff. But what I find really interesting is, because I'd already read this one, and this is literally all humans are wiped out, it kind of brought an unpredictability to this, because you would expect a happy ending, but I didn't know if there was going to be a happy ending because it leads to Sea of Rust. So it was really interesting that there was this sort of extra tension there that I don't think would have been there if this had come first. So I did find that quite an interesting element to the reading. But I did love the books. I thought they were written really well. Thought the pace was brilliant, like I said. Couldn't put them down. The characterisation was really good as well. And that exploration of sentience, what is intelligence, what is emotion, can robots have rights, that kind of stuff, is explored a little bit in both books from different angles. So yeah, definitely recommend them. Yeah, didn't want to spoil too much of the plots by saying too much what happened, but I massively recommend the books. And if you like these books, please comment underneath. If you're intrigued by them, make a comment. That'd be cool. It's really nice that recently I've had more comments on my videos from other people doing YouTube videos, but also just in general some more comments of people watching, which is great because it's really good. So this should be about interaction, so the more comments the better. But please subscribe to the channel if you like some of this stuff. I'm going to do a Claire North one soon. I'm going to do a dystopian one soon, another time travel one soon. Got a few other specific books I want to do as well. And like I said, I'm kind of intrigued by the idea of doing a robot one as well. But somewhere on my shelves, I have, I have iRobot to read, and I haven't read this yet. So if these two books were all about exploring the breaking of the law of robotics, clearly I ought to read about the law of robotics. So yeah, that's on my TBR as well. But yeah, I might do because I'm fascinated by that sort of stuff. So I will probably do a video about that as well. Anyway, thanks a lot, guys, and have a good Christmas.
Paint me a picture